What's good, YouTube? Today we are going to be talking about the letters of the musical alphabet and the strings of the guitar. Now, a lot of you may not know why it is important to truly learn the letters of the musical alphabet, and it is going to build on everything that you're doing. More than likely, you have seen letters pop up when it comes to sheet music or when you're trying to learn songs, and you probably think those letters are only pertaining to chords, but those chords stem from the notes. And in order to know your notes, you have to know the letters of the musical alphabet, which is relatively easy. So, if this is your first time seeing this channel or these videos, more than likely you are new to this series altogether. So let me tell you, I've only been making one or two types of videos this year. The first videos that I've been making have kind of been like recap videos of everything that I've done inside of my guitar classroom. I am a high school guitar teacher. I teach 100 guitar students every single day on the high school level. And I've been taking the concepts, the lectures, the lessons, and the songs that we've been learning, and I've been recording all of those concepts, lectures, and songs to post on this channel. That way I can teach you as well. Majority of the content that I teach my students, I've been making on my own. I try not to get anything from books because I find those contents to be a little bit square. So most of the times I've just been making the things on my own, trying to resonate with my students through my own knowledge rather than trying to just read from a book and read from a script. So let's talk about what we planned on talking about in this video anyway, which are the letters of the musical alphabet and the strings of the guitar. Now, those concepts go hand in hand. The strings of the guitar are based on letters. Those letters are based on notes. Those notes are based on pitches. Majority of the sounds that exist in this world have some sort of pitch related to it. What do I mean by that? Um, Cavemen first started singing, and then a scientist heard that song, and they said, "Let's identify that." And then scientists also heard it on an instrument. Oh, and now they're recognizing that this is the same sound. It's not necessarily the same voice or the same timbre, but it is the same sound. And they needed a way to identify that. So they chose to use letters to identify that. But they only chose to use 7 letters. There are only 7 letters in the musical alphabet. What are those 7 letters? It is the same first 7 letters of your ABCs. So hopefully everybody knows the English alphabet. And it is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it repeats all the way back to the top with A. And I'm sure a few of you are wondering, why did I leave a gap in between all of these notes? And it's more easy to see it when you are looking at it on a piano. Piano is one of the most comprehensive instruments because you can recognize the patterns just by looking at it immediately. Week 1 of this series, in episode 1, where I recapped everything that I talked about with my students in the first week of school, I told them that the best musicians understand pattern recognition. If you're looking at the piano, hopefully you can notice 2 things right off the bat. You have white keys and you have black keys. And I'm only going on the piano tangent for a little bit because I know this is about guitar. You have white keys and you have black keys. Those white keys are natural notes, which are just the plain old alphabet, the plain old letters of the musical alphabet, right? But those black keys are what we would call accidentals. And without me going further into the accidentals, I just want you to notice the pattern that's associated with it. With those black keys, you have groupings of 2, 1 and 2, and you have groupings of 3, 1, 2, 3. If you're looking at these groupings, to the left of those groupings, you will find the letters that helps your pattern. So to the left of the grouping of 2 black keys, you will find the letter C, which means that this note, this white key is the note C. And to the left of the grouping of 3, you will find the note F. And then it continuously repeats. After that, you find another grouping of 2, that's the letter C. And if you just look at the letters going from left to right, those are your letters in alphabetical order. After G, it repeats back to A over and over again. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on and so forth. And it's good to recognize these letters forward and backwards, or alphabetically and reverse alphabetically. The reason being is as we're going in alphabetical order, we are increasing in pitch. And when we are going in the reverse of the alphabetical order, we're decreasing in pitch. So hang on to that thought. We're not going to talk too much about that until we start talking about accidentals in another video where I say there are only 12 notes. And I told you usually we identify these notes by pitch. So I'm going to show you a real piano and This is going to veer into another topic, which is another video about tuning. But all of these videos are posted. So if you've never heard these concepts, you can go down a rabbit hole with this channel. But when it comes to tuning, this is the note F. This is also the note F. If played at the same time, it sounds very similar, unlike two different notes. That was an F and an E added on top of each other. So all of these pitches can be identified by a letter name, and that's what scientists decided to do. So when we learned the strings of the guitar, somebody decided to let the strings of the guitar have a standardized approach, and they decided to call it standard tuning. If we are looking at the strings of the guitar, we will talk about the letter names in standard tuning. But before we talk about them in standard tuning, let's talk about them as numbers instead. Now, numbers can get really confusing because you have left hand finger numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. You have fret numbers, fret 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. And then you also have string numbers. But I don't want you to get confused with it, which is why I'm being pretty thorough as I'm going to explain it. The thickest string, the string closest to your face, is what we call string 6. The thinnest string, the string closest to your leg, is what we call string 1. I hope you're holding the guitar the right way because that plays a factor too. The pick guard should be closest to your leg, unless you don't have a pick guard, and then you might have a classical guitar. On another tangent, make sure you watch the video about the parts of the guitars. That way you can make that make sense when that time comes. String 6 is closest to our face. String 1 is closest to our leg. The thickest string is string 6, also known as the lowest pitch string. The thicker that it is, the lower the pitch. And the highest pitch string, which is string 1, is closest to our leg. So if you just recognize that pattern, everything else should make sense from there. This is 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So oftentimes I try to make sure that my students are pretty thorough when it comes to understanding this. So sometimes I'll ask them to play string 2. And I took a pause, that way you could think about it. String 2 is closest to our leg, the second string closest to our leg. And sometimes I'll ask them to play string 5, which is the second string closest to our face. However, identifying it by numbers only can get confusing, especially if I said, take your third finger and put it on the second fret of string 5. Then you might get really confused by thinking, well, what's my third finger, what's the second fret, and what's string 5? That's so much to think about. So in simplest forms, we don't always have to say our fingers by numbers. We can also call them by what they are, my ring finger. We don't always have to say our strings by numbers because we can associate it with the pitch. Our mnemonic device to remember the letters of standard tuning on our guitar strings are Eddie, Ate, Dynamite, Good, Bye, Eddie. I'm gonna say it again. Eddie, Ate, Dynamite, Good, Bye, Eddie. So if you just take the first letter of each of those, you will notice what string you're playing. So this is E, this is A, this is D, this is G, this is B, and this is E. Those are the strings of the guitar. Notice you have two E strings, just like when I showed you the piano example, I played two Fs and I said they sound similar. This is low E, this is high E, but both of them are E. Hopefully you have gained a lot of knowledge through this video alone, where all we talked about was the letters of the musical alphabet and the strings of the guitar. If you're interested in diving deeper to figure out all of the notes that are related to music, that's another concept. I don't think that should be the very next video that you watch though. Make sure you stay tuned, that way you can watch the next videos that I will recommend, which are how to read chord charts and tablature, or how to tune your guitar. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.